but it's another SMB Acceleration show. Today's show is going to be building off the one from the other day, and today's is all about choosing a domain for your website hosting, and setting up emails. Because really, that's kind of the basis of this new business idea, business venture, whatever you're working on, as we mentioned in the last show. As you're kind of going forward with it, the next step really is to decide you need a name of some sort. As I personally feel you need a branded email address. And there is a slight cost potentially involved with that, but I think overall it is worth it. As I mentioned on the last show, I'm not going to be going over anything but WordPress. WordPress is, my choice for building a small business website. So this is all about how I would go about building a small business website. As great as, the Wix and Squarespace and all are, I'm just not as comfortable with them, or I actually feel more comfortable with the advanced functionality, as I mentioned in the last show, of WordPress. So this is all about WordPress. So if I'm starting on a new business idea, there's a couple things I look at. One is, what type of business is it? Am I looking to do a startup? I was a member of the Philly Startup Leaders, did a boot camp on startups, and they pair you into teams and doing that. You kind of come up with, you have a startup name. So if you're working on something that is kind of in that startup realm, you're going to really want to go with a branded website. Most likely the .com won't be available. You'll have to get some kind of, derivative of it, or a .io, .co, or something of the sort. Next is if it's a local business and its branding's not important. This is where I think there's an extra step. And it might sound a little funny because you could just go and search domain names, but what I would do is go to Expired Domains. ExpiredDomains.net has a list of all domains that have expired over the last couple years, and it also gives you information on them, like how many backlinks they might have, and you can see the domains. You can look them up on archive.org to make sure that they weren't used for spam or anything. But if you can find a good older age domain, a lot of times there's still value to that. There's kind of a debate in the SEO community whether it is or is not worthwhile, those old links, but from my personal experience, I've had some good success with buying domains I found from expireddomains.net. So it's just something to consider. You have a little bit of extra time and you're like, what? Let me throw in, my keyword and my city and see what happens. A couple times I've gotten really lucky. I built a small business insurance website for personal private client type insurance, high wealth individuals, and I was able to find a domain, insuranceadvisor.org. This domain happened to be used by a former insurance association, so it was kind of, I believe, a nonprofit, but still it had a lot of old backlinks from sites that maybe haven't been maintained. So over time it will lose some of them, but when I started out, it actually had, and it showed links when I kind of brought it up in Google Analytics and Webmaster Tools. So having that little bit of basis always helps. It always helps to get it indexed a little faster, and in my opinion, it's worth that kind of 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes before I get into a project to kind of look at it, expired domains, and say, all right, there's something there, maybe there's not, maybe there's something I can work with. I've also gone overboard with it, where I've also tailored the business to a good domain I could find. I don't recommend that, because especially if you find success, you're going to be using this domain for a while. Find something that you like. Expired domains might be worth looking at. If not, if you're like, I'm just really want to get my brand name or my last name or whatever it is, then I definitely recommend, just going right to your domain registrar. As this video is all about, and the podcast is all about, for this segment of how I would do it, I use Namecheap. I find it's one of the lowest cost. I think they have a good, I like it. There's a cPanel access. It was very cost effective, but it's probably not the fastest. I don't think it's by any means the worst or the slowest. It's adequate for a lot of times what I'm doing when I'm testing business ideas or something like that. It's good for a small business, but as I'm going to kind of mention on hosting, there's a lot of variables in it, and it really depends how much money you have. So how much you're going to spend. This is probably going to be the biggest single expense you have when starting this new business idea, especially in terms of the website, because the biggest thing is going to be how much do you spend monthly in hosting. And it can range. I love WP Engine and highly recommend it. Have used it for numerous clients, friends, etc. But it really depends where you're at. If you're not in a place where $35 a month makes sense, or you just don't have it to spend, then it's hard to justify that for WordPress. Maybe there's other, like WordPress, I'm sorry, for WP Engine. So there could be other places you put that money into if you don't have it. But if you have a business and it's either already making revenue, you have a job, you're supporting a little bit, and you really want really fast hosting, where WP Engine is excellent. Another thing I'll mention about paying a little bit more for hosting, especially something WP Engine, is the amount of support you get. And there's this definite correlation between handling somewhat of your own hosting on something like a Namecheap, where you're not actually handling it, but you're setting up all the subdomains or anything like that for different uses, versus having a kind of plug and play, reach out for support for anything. And that's where really something like WP Engine is great. If time is all of our biggest factor in how much we can do, really matters, then something like WP Engine, where you can jump on and have support and get something worked out and they'll even work through it for you, I highly recommend it. Again, I'm not an affiliate of WP Engine. I've just had tremendous success. I've also had success with Beyond Hosting. They have a good support team. But as far as if I was setting up a business after work, one single idea, and I was just relentlessly working on that, I would probably consider WP Engine. If I can afford the $35, dollar a day, $1.50 a day, then it really is worth it. They know what plugins are good and bad. They kind of have a banned list. If they have them, they make you remove them, and a lot of that is really good as far as WordPress security, especially if you're keeping personal identity, PII, or anything like that. So hosting is definitely something you have to consider. How much can you spend? If it's only a few dollars and you know nothing about working within the cPanel and hosting, then I would look for something plug and play like an Easy WP that's offered through something like Namecheap. A number of hosts offer it, and that's like one of these $4 or $5 a month, done for you hosting, not nearly the support. If you're at a place where the business is one customer, and this is something I say to people all the time, if you're in a place where one customer matters and you can afford it, then probably go for the $30, $35, $25 hosting from something like a WP Engine, because you don't want to lose somebody because the website is running slow, is down, you're having a technical issue. So really somewhat kind of determine where your budget is, and hosting is going to be the big one. Next to hosting, you have email. And the reason I put that all before everything is you've decided on a name, you're using WordPress to build your website, you found a host, or hosting, I'm sorry. Now the next thing is you need to be able to contact people. You need to be able to set up social media profiles. You need to be able to reach out to people. Maybe you're going to set another email up on your phone as you start getting this business going. You want to tell people about it. You're getting business cards made. Whatever it is, people need a way to contact you. Again, there's a couple ways to handle it. Depending on your hosting. Some hosting offers, simple email solution, like a webmail thing. You get the app, or you can tie, which you can then tie to, Apple Mail, Google Mail, anything like that. Or you can go with something a little bit more robust, like Google Suite for Business. Now, again, there's a trade-off of cost. A lot of times with hosting, you can get an email, you can have an email address or two, so maybe that's baked into the, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever you're paying for hosting cost. But then again, you kind of have to make sure that forwards are set up and everything like that, versus setting up something like Google Suite for Business. And I mean, you do have to know that setting up Google Suite for Business, you do need to add a code, a Google verification code to the registrar level. And again, that's something where something like WP Engine comes in really handy, because you can just log on to support, say, here's this code I need, I don't know what to do with it, help me out. And their support team's excellent, and you know what, they get it done. The Google Suite verification's done, your domain's registered, you're good to go. So I think there's a lot of benefits to using Google Suite for Business. I know a lot of people, especially people that are coming out of, enterprise type businesses or Fortune 1000 companies that use a lot of Microsoft, are comfortable using Microsoft Office 365. Again, you have the cost inherent to that. Personally, I lean towards Google Drive, especially for a small business. As I tell a number of people, the added search functionality of Google Drive, being able to search PDFs and stuff for specific text, makes it heads and tails above Microsoft. And to me, that feature alone is often worth the money because, again, time's your biggest resource. If I can find something in 60 seconds instead of spending 15 minutes when I'm doing it after work or trying to build this business, get myself frustrated, then you know what? The couple bucks a month is worth it to me. So all in all, you could be looking at, say, $35 for WP Engine, $6, I think it's $6 a month now for setting up Google Suite for Business. All in, you're looking at $41, and that's still without setting up a theme and all for WordPress. So WordPress is going to be free. There's a lot of ways to cut costs. Like I mentioned, you could go with much cheaper hosting. You can go with hosting that costs you $6 a month and $6 a month for the Google Suite, calling it $10, $12 a month, you can get in for. But it really depends on what you want. How are you going to set things up going forward? What are you most comfortable with? How valuable is time to you? If time is extremely important, and I was setting up a brand new WordPress website and knew very little about hosting, email servers, or anything of that sort, my recommendation would be, if I had the money, WP Engine plus Google Suite for Business. So all in, $35, $40, $41, $42 a month right there. So I know I'm going to have some additional cost on my website as far as WordPress theme and everything, but the fixed cost of $42 a month, I know every month that my website is going to be running. It's going to be running extremely fast, and also from a security aspect, I have someone like WP Engine keeping an eye out on my site's not going to get hacked and turned into some porn site or anything like that. So if you're really considering it and you have the money, WP Engine, Google Suite for Business. If you're, like me a lot of times and looking to kind of, I don't want to say cut some corners, save some couple dollars, just, here and there, I would definitely recommend using a host that has email all kind of baked in. I wouldn't get into messing with mail servers or anything like that. So that's kind of this video. We're at that second stage. You've chosen a name for your business. We found hosting for it, especially primarily WordPress hosting, because that's what we're talking here. So we now have our WordPress hosting chosen. We have our email. If we went with Google Suite for Business, we also now have a full suite of business tools. And we're going to be ready for next, choosing the website theme and getting started with social media profiles and just the base setup. So I'll be back with the next episode. We're going to kind of dive into the next step of taking a small business website to the next level. Look forward to talking to you. If anyone has any questions,